Hello, everyone. We're going to start today with talking about all different kinds of fabrics. And I have a wide range, everything from leather and vinyl and um, knits and just about anything you can think of. And really, there's 4 secrets that make your sewing with these difficult fabrics successful. And it's really no mystery. The first thing is the right needle for the job. Now, to start with, we're going to talk about leather and vinyl and some of the differences between them. Here's an example of a piece of leather, and you'll see leather on the back of it. It almost has a look, suede-y look to it. This is a fabric that people think is very difficult to work with, but it's actually really easy to sew with it. But there are a couple of tricks, and sometimes it means using the right foot for the job. I've just got a few different types that I'm going to show you here. Here's another piece of leather. Now, this is significantly thicker than the first piece. This one is a little bit thinner and a little softer. And you'll see the leather actually does have a lot of stretch to it. And this piece, because it's stiffer, it doesn't have as much stretch and give to it. And another piece here this is a vinyl. It's a vegan leather, if they call it. And the back of it's almost got like a flannel piece to it. Very, very similar. It's almost impossible to tell the difference between the two of them. But really, it is amazing how different they are when you start to sew with them. I have another sample here, and this is a marine vinyl. The marine vinyl is something they make boat seat covers out of, and you'll see a lot of outside upholstery type of fabrics made from that. And this has like a mesh on the back of it, but very, very easy to sew. Quite honestly, it sews like butter. It's very, very easy to sew this. So after I'm showing you this, I'm going to show you the kinds of stitches and the things you need to think about when you're sewing. We also have a lot of printed vinyl these days that are used for bags and for all kinds of projects. And these are readily available. And then another one here where it's a metallic. Now, the one thing that these all have in common is the front part of them tends to be shinier and the metal foot will stick on them. So one of the first things that I usually do if I need to sew on the front side of the vinyl is to use the no slip foot and a no stick foot. You can see an example here where I stitched on it. It did a beautiful job and no problems at all. But using the foot makes all the difference. And I think when you see what I'm going to show you as an example, it'll be really clear how that works. This is a really funky vinyl, and it's meant to look like an alligator. So this is what I'm going to use for my example. And I'm going to switch my camera over to, I see some of you that I know have joined our meeting. So it's so nice to see you all here. And I'm going to change our camera. And today I am working on the Singer 6700C heavy duty machine. And it is a great little machine. It's got a nice strong motor and lots of stitches. And right now I am sewing on a straight stitch. So I'm going to select the straight stitch as my stitch. And the fabric that I'm going to be stitching on is this leather. And I'm going to come over here to the needle. And if I was going to sew this seam, I'm going to put 2 pieces of it together. And this vinyl is really unusual because it does have like 3-dimensional lumps and bumps to it. And so you would think it would be very difficult to sew with, but it's really not. So when I'm sewing on the wrong side of the fabric, you can see it's even sticking to itself. I have to kind of pick it up and move it because the vinyl is so shiny and it's really sticking. So when I start, I'm just on a little short stitch here. My stitch length comes up at 2.5. I would usually recommend, second here, sorry about that. I would usually recommend going with a longer stitch length when I am sewing with vinyl and leather. Because if you go with too short a stitch length, you'll find that the stitch can perforate the vinyl or leather. And over on my stitch, I'm going to change the stitch length to a 3.0 to show you. And then I'm going to show you a stitch you can use if you're really looking for strength. And so now you can see I'm not getting any resistance. It did a great job of sewing. And of course I could go backwards if I wanted to lock that stitch in. And when I open it, you can see I got a nice strong seam and the stitches look absolutely beautiful, which is what we're looking for, right? Let me see if I could get you a little bit closer there. afterwards, what I would normally do to reduce the bulk would be open up the seam allowance, and you do need to be careful about pressing the seams with that shiny vinyl because it will melt with an iron, but there are lots of techniques. You can go in and finger press it down, and you can also, if you want to, use a fusible product to keep the seam kind of anchored down in place like that. Now, if I was going to do this exact same thing, but I wanted to sew on the top of this, I'm going to get a very, very different experience. So let me lift my needle up. And I did have the needle set in the down position for that. And if you're working with something thick and you need to have a little bit of extra area underneath, you can always have, look at how that extra lift comes up. Isn't that nice? So if you have an extra lift on your machine, make sure that you lift that up. It makes it easier to get these thicker fabrics in here. And I'm going to see if I can get a little bit closer to you so you can see this. And I'm going to put the exposure down a little bit. There we go. All right. So now when I start sewing, notice what happens. You see the fabric's not moving. I mean, it is literally stopped in its tracks because the metal foot is contacting with this shiny vinyl, and the fabric cannot feed through because the vinyl is sticking to my foot. So I'm going to put on a new special foot. And I bet you wonder why your machine comes with lots of feet and why we sell so many different feet. And really the answer is because we're supposed to change them for different projects. So this is the non-stick foot. You'll see the back of it. It's got a very slippery back, and it lets the stickier fabrics like the vinyl. I'm going to just take that foot off, and I'm going to put on the no stick foot. Most machines do have, and I can put the foot down, wait a second here. Most machine brands do have a foot like this. The Singer is, some machines actually come included with them, and some don't, but this is an accessory that you can buy. So now the only thing I'm changing, look at that, it just sewed in the same place, literally didn't move from one place to another, okay? So
Hey,
I'm just gonna,
Karen.
yes?
We had two people ask, Genesis and Nancy both wanted to know what type of needle you are using. So in addition to changing the foot, can you share with them which needle you're using for sewing such a unique material?
All right, I'm going to actually talk a whole lot about needles, so I am going to cover that. Right now, I do have a titanium needle in there, but when I did this earlier, you'll see over here, I actually have a stitching line that really did a nice job. I just had a universal needle in there. Sewing with leather and vinyl, rarely do you need to have a leather needle in there. They do exist, and you certainly can buy them at Michael's, but vinyl especially is very soft, and it's very easy for the needle to pierce it. As long as your machine has enough power for the motor to push the needle through, it's very, very easy to do. And this machine works fabulous. You can see it's not working at all. Now, but I'm not changing the needle right now. All I'm doing is I changed my foot and I put on the non-stick foot, and watch what a different result I get when I start to go. You see how easy that works? I bet you didn't think it would be quite so dramatic, but it really makes all the difference in the world to have the right foot for the job. And if I want to go backwards, I can go backwards. Doesn't that look like it's just sewing like it's butter? There's no resistance at all. And my machine did a great job sewing it. The only difference, and I'll come back over here to my camera, the only difference that happened is that I changed the foot. And so when you're at home and you're wondering why your machine cannot handle fabric like this, often it's not so much a matter of that your machine can't do it, but it's a matter that you don't have the right foot on. Now, remember I said there's 4 secrets to success. One of them is choosing the right foot for the job. The other thing is choosing the right needle. So if I was using, say, for example, a 90 universal needle, and I tried to stitch the vinyl with the right sides together, and this is quite a thick vinyl, by the way. If I had the right sides together the way I do here, and I started sewing and I was getting resistance and I felt like it wasn't working, one of the very first things you do is change your needle. And so putting a sharper needle on usually is going to let the needle pierce it a little bit easier because it's got a sharper point to me. And the other thing that to think about is often we think that if we're working with something heavy like this, that we might need to use a heavier needle. And that's not always true. I like to use the smallest needle that will work with the fabric that I'm working with, because especially when it comes to vinyl like this, if you use say 100 size 100 needle, it's going to put a bigger hole in your leather or your vinyl, and you're going to see that. So it did a great job. Right now, I do have a 90 titanium needle in, but it did just as nice a job when I had the 90 universal needle in. And if I was using the 80 universal needle, it probably would have done a great job too. As I said, this looks like a very difficult fabric to work with, but it's not. And I've got some other things that I wanted to show you, and I'm going to do a like, now this is a combination. It looks like it's leather, vinyl, that type of thing, but it's actually a knit. So there's a lot of stretch in here. When you're doing fabric like this, that is kind of has that shiny front to it, and it's also a knit, which means it's stretchy like this, you may find sometimes that you get stitches that skip. So when you see stitches that are skipping on your machine, 90% of the time, that is needle related. Probably even 95% of the time that's needle related. And I know the first thing we want to do is blame our machine, but honestly, most of the time, you just are not using the right needle. So if I was sewing something that was more like a knit and I was getting skip stitches, then the first thing I would do is put on a stretch needle. Needle is going to be able to cover any of that stretch fibers that are in here. If it's got lycra or spandex or something like that, that is what you want to do. And I just see a comment that Bethany made about not pulling the fabric, not forcing the fabric through. And that's a really good point, right? You notice when I was sewing that heavier fabric, I didn't push or pull. I let the machine do the work. And if the machine was not feeding that fabric, I have two options. The first thing I do is change my foot. And the second thing that I can do, and I'm going to come back over to my machine. Well, let me first tell you this. The other type of foot that can work with this is the walking foot, dual feed foot. Most brands of machines have a dual feed foot. Singer has one for all of their machines, and so do all the other brands that are out there pretty much. Now, the Singer that I'm sewing on right now, the 6700C, it actually came with a walking foot. So when you're buying a machine and you're thinking about it, check and see if your machine comes with it, because many of the Singer machines do come with a walking foot, and many machines out there, just make sure that it's at least available, right? Because this is really going to help. Now, when it comes to working with all of these shiny side of this vinyl, like this vinyl is very, very slippery, and it's got a very high shine to it. Using the walking foot would not solve the problem, because the foot is going, the metal part of the foot is, even though that it's working and it's going to lift off the fabric as it's stitching, it's still going to probably be prone to sticking to the fabric. So in that case, the non-stick foot is probably still your best bet. Okay. And I am going to just show you a couple of other fabrics working with this non-stick foot, just to prove to you that I'm not making this up and you really can trust me. Okay. And there are some other stitches you might want to think about. Remember, I said when you're working with leather or vinyl, you're probably going to want to use a longer stitch length. Well, if you need something for strength, if you're sewing a garment together that's got to really hold together, the other part of the equation for the secrets to success is choosing the right stitch. And so there are better stitches. If you need strength and you need to use a longer stitch length, then the other option you can use is a reinforced stitch. So I'm going to come back over to my Singer that I'm working with, and I'm going to change my stitch. I'm going to come over here and let's look at the stitches that are in front of my machine. All right. This is my straight stitch, and this is a straight stitch in the left needle position. This is a reinforced stitch, and this is the stitch that I'm talking about using. It's going to sew forward and backwards and forwards again. So I'm going to select that stitch, And I'm going to make the stitch go as long as I can make it. I know you don't see the screen up here that much. Right now it's at 2.5, and the longest it'll go is at 3.0. So that's what I'm going to do for this stitch.
Hey,
Okay.
Karen,
Yes.
just so everyone knows, the stitches that are on the front of this heavy duty machine are the most commonly used stitches, but at the bottom of that little panel on the machine are two little pull
Oh,
tabs,
yes.
additional stitches. So there's a lot more stitches that come with this
Yeah,
machine.
no, I was going to show them. Don't you worry. I haven't
Yeah,
gotten all those decorative stitches
but
because we talk
I
about
do
what would work
love,
for this kind of thing.
yeah, I do love that they have like the most commonly used ones
What
right
she's
there on the
talking
front.
about down here at the bottom, if you pull
Yes.
out, there is these sheets that have all of the different stitches in all the different menus so that you really can get an idea of what stitch you might want to use. Now, the best kind of stitches for sewing with decorative stitching on leather and vinyl are going to be something that's a little bit more open, right? You're probably not going to be happy with these satin stitches because they can perforate the leather. Now, there are ways of getting around that, like putting a stabilizer, a fusible stabilizer on the back, and that stops the leather from perforating. But that is something you have to be careful about when you're working with leather and vinyl like this. If you use a heavy, heavy stitch that's going to go and stitch very heavily, this will actually perforate, and literally the triangle that you might be stitching will just kind of come apart. So if you put a fusible stabilizer on the back of it, that kind of supports the stabilizer and stops that from coming apart. And so you can just see all these different stitches, right? Now look at this stitch right here. This is a really pretty stitch. It's like a serpentine stitch. These are big open stitches, so they would be very nice to be able to use on a fabric like this for more of a decorative look. And then as you come in the back, you'll see there's some more stitches that are nice and big and open. They're still decorative, but they're not quite as stitch intensive as a satin stitch. And they're all there, so you can pull them out and choose what stitch you want to work with. But right now we're working with this reinforced stitch number 3, and I lengthen the stitch length to 3.0. And I'll put 2 layers of the vinyl together so that you can just believe that it's going to handle it. And I haven't sewn this yet. I'm going to do a seam on the edge. Let's say I wanted to do a decorative seam on the edge of my fabric to give it a nice crisp edge to it. And so when I start sewing, if I've never tried this material before or the stitch, I usually will start off a little bit slower, and will see that you do have speed control here. So if you tend to have a heavy foot, you can always slow the machine down a little bit like this. The other thing I like to do is I like to set my needle in the down position. So when I start sewing and stop, the needle will stay in the fabric and it'll kind of support the fabric. So I'm just going to start out. I don't have a heavy foot, so I'm going to leave my speed on fast, but I'm going to start off, and you can see I'm just going slow, and I'm lining up the edge of my fabric with the edge of my foot. Now, there are some great magnets that you can get if you have trouble sewing a straight line that can kind of guide the seam allowance. I kind of have a really easy way of doing it. When I'm sewing something like this, I take my 2 fingers like this, and I am leaving this finger, one right here, against the fold of the fabric, and then my index finger is on my fabric. And you'll notice that I never move those fingers. They just stay exactly where they are. And so as long as my edge of my fabric is lined up here, my finger's going to control me sewing straight. You see what's happening? It's going forward and back and forward. So because I cannot use a short stitch, this really adds a lot more strength to my stitching, and it's going to make the seam a lot stronger. So when you're sewing something where you know there's going to be a lot of pressure on it, maybe you're sewing a bag together or a jacket, and you know that there's going to be some push on the sleeves or something like that, then this reinforced stitch is really the best one to use. And you can see it's doing a great job sewing. And I'm just going to stop for a second, and I'll lift my needle up and take it out, and then I'll come and see if I can show you what that looks like. See, it's going everywhere, much, much heavier, right? And it did a great job. The back looks good too. And that's the test of a good stitch, just the front and the back look. It's almost hard to see because of the shine with that vinyl though, right? But I hope this makes you a little bit braver to try some of these different vinyls. You can see it's, if you've ever tried to sew with vinyl and with leathers, most of the time it is not that your machine can't handle it. It is just the fact that you're not using the right foot. Now here I've got one more test. I have not tested it yet, but I've got one more test. This is a much thicker leather, and you can see it's got the suede-like fabric on the back. And I don't know if I can sew this or not, or whether how it's going to work. Now, if I do it from this side where the suede part is, you would think, well, the suede's not going to be all that sticky. But honestly, the non-stick foot is going to work much better for this too, because the non-stick foot, when you're sewing on suede, will still kind of want to grab it and not release it. And I'm going to come back in and let's see what happens when I sew on this fabric. Now, if I've got, this fabric is much, much thicker. And I'm going to switch, sorry, I'm going to switch my camera over here. And I don't, if I know the fabric is very, very thick, I usually will not, you notice how I didn't start at the very end? Because if I start at the very end, often my foot is kind of like stuck up in the air. And so sometimes it doesn't want to go over that hump quite so much. So I prefer, if I know I'm sewing on something very thick, to start flat on the fabric like that, and I'll take a couple of stitches to start. All right, and now I'm just going to go back to my straight stitch for this. Okay, you can see my needle's working a lot harder, right, my machine, but it's still doing the job. And I'm going to go backwards, and I can go forwards, and it's doing a pretty good job with that. But you can hear the difference in the sound. Now, if this was something where you felt that the needle wasn't piercing it well enough, then that is exactly where you want to be changing to a leather needle, because the leather needle's almost got like a sharp point to it, almost like a little blade. And so it helps to push the needle through, but it's only in the more extreme cases that you want to be able to change to that leather needle. For most of the fabrics that we've been working with, just your standard sharp needle would work. The universal needles work, the titanium ones have. The needle really wasn't so much the issue as much as the foot was the issue, okay? So remember, and same thing when I'm coming here and I'm coming down to this end. At this end, it's getting much, much thicker, right? You can see that the needle's kind of flowing down a little bit, right? Then that's your sign that you want to put on a more appropriate needle. In this case, and that would be a leather needle, okay? So I'm going to lift that up and come out here like that. And remember that though, whenever you're starting at a point and you feel like that your fabric is really, really thick, I'm going to show you that again, right? Start with your foot straight on the fabric, sew a couple of stitches, and then go backwards, and then come forwards. And what that did is it flattened out that fabric. And so when you come forward again, it's going to be really easy to start stitching again, okay? And see, it's just flattened it out and you're ready to go forward again. And it usually will be much easier to sew at the very beginning, and it also reinforces it that way too. All right, so let's move on, because I think we've taken enough time. Is there any questions, Bethany, out there about? Yeah, don't worry about the sound of the machines. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
we get that question a lot, of like, "Well, I can't hear it." And it's like, "Oh, it's because our microphones tend to block it out so that you can continue to hear us share our tips."
Right, and that's
I
kind of
just
a nice thing. My
It
machine,
really is.
my machine did make more noise when I was going through that very heavy leather, though. There was
Mhm.
definitely a difference in the sound, but you can see the difference when we're talking about working with that decorative stitches. Both of these are reinforced. One's a reinforced zigzag, and the other one is a reinforced straight stitch. So I see a question, does it have an automatic needle threader? There is a needle threader that you pull down right here to thread the machine. And most of the Singer machines do have some form of a needle threader, whether it's, you know, one like this, and then there's some other ways of doing it too, but they're all a little bit different.
Karen, I
Okay.
just wanted to share real quick
Yep.
the reason anybody who loves to sew with these type of materials, maybe they're questioning if they should get a heavy duty machine. One thing that I really like about sewing these types of materials on a heavy duty machine is the fact that the heavy duty means that it is got a metal frame all the way through the machine, and that's going to give your machine more stability, so it's not going to bounce around on your table. The other thing is it's got a stronger motor, which gives it a stronger piercing power to be able to sew through some of these thicker materials that Karen's demonstrating today, making the sewing process easier, more enjoyable, and more successful.
Yep, that's absolutely true. And that's why I was doing this, because I wanted to show you how much of a difference it makes. Now, the other type of thing that I do with this is I actually can make quilts and piece with it. I treat it a little bit different. These are faux leathers that I put a piece of stabilizer on the back of them, and then I cut them out. And the stabilizer, all that did, it's a fusible stabilizer. All it did was stop that faux leather from stretching, because it does tend to have some stretch to it. And then instead of overlapping them where you get the bulk, I used like a serpentine stitch there to just go in back and forth and attach it. And you can use a lot of different decorative stitches to join them up. Here's another one like this. And think about how fun that is. You know, often we get into our little ruts, right? We're used to sewing with cotton all the time, especially if you're a quilter. But a lot of times our types of sewing we can do are a lot more fun if we expand our fabric a little bit. All right, how are we doing time-wise? All right, we're going to move on to sewing with knits and lycra and spandex. Now, there is a difference between lycra and spandex, but they're virtually identical in the way that you would treat them when you're sewing with them. And most of the time, I'm going to use, anytime it says lycra or spandex in anything you're sewing, you absolutely have to use a stretch needle. Don't bother with a ballpoint. A ballpoint, when you start going, it is for stretch fabric, but it won't work well when you're working with lycra and spandex, okay? So I have some examples over here of all different kinds of knits. All right. And let me just pull them over here a little bit, because what we consider knits today is really quite a bit different. All right. And so this is just a real traditional t-shirt knit, right? And there are ways of finding out if you have fabric and you don't know what's in them. There are ways you can actually like burn the edge, and by the smell of it you can tell whether it's a synthetic fabric, and whether it's lycra or spandex, the smell will be different. I'm not advising to let your fabric on fire, though. I think it really doesn't matter. The question really comes down to, when you're sewing with a fabric like this, if you find that you've got a perfect stitch and everything's great, then you don't do anything. But if you see that you're getting stretched stitches, because a universal needle is like a half ballpoint, it's got like, rounded tip, it's going to go through most of the fibers. But if you're working with a fabric that's got lycra and spandex, often you'll notice that you'll get skipped stitches. And so the solution is absolutely stretch needle. There's nothing that will work better, and it usually solves 99% of anything that you've got going on, okay? There are a couple of other tips that we're going to talk about as we go, and I will sew this together. And I still have the titanium needle, and I do have some other needles here, but just to test it, I'm going to see what it looks like, because this is usually what I do. I know a lot of you are very timid about thinking about changing needles. You don't want to waste anything, but they do recommend that after about 8 hours of sewing with a needle, it's a good idea to change it out. I know if you're anything like me, you probably don't do that as often as you should. And for me, what I do is I'm sewing, and if I see something that's all of a sudden not going well, or I'm not happy with the stitch quality, I don't blame my machine. The first thing I do is I change my needle, and I put the appropriate needle in there that I think is going to do the job. Okay. So I'm going to go over to the machine, and I'm going to sew this just so you can see what this looks like. But before we do that, let's look at some other types of stretch fabric. Now, the garment that I'm making today, I made this. It's a lot of fun. It's actually, usually they use it for making skirts, and often they will have it so that the fringe is kind of face down like that. I didn't think that would really look all that nice on me, so I put it on the side to make it be a little funkier. And this is a knit. It does have a lot of stretch. And when you're evaluating what a knit looks like, it's important to know, does it have a two-way stretch or a four-way stretch? This one stretches this way and this way. And when you're looking at a pattern and you're cutting out a pattern, often they will tell you what type of fabric but also should you be looking for a two-way stretch or a four-way stretch, okay? So in this case with the t-shirt knit, it stretches this way and it stretches that way. And it's about the same amount of stretch. Sometimes you'll get a fabric that will stretch only one way and not the other. And for example, polar fleece and stuff like that works like that. It'll have more of a stretch one way than the other. All right. And here's this other funky fabric that I found now. I wish I'd found that before I put all this jacket together because I might have used both of them. This is done on a web mesh on the back of it. And then they've attached all these extra pieces to it. All right. And in this case, it doesn't stretch this much, but it stretches a lot that way. Okay. And I've got some other, anything that sparkles, you know, I love it. So this is a sparkle. It's a prom dress type of fabric. It stretches a lot this way, and I mean a lot. And this way doesn't stretch at all. So if you're going to be using this fabric and you're making it for example, a skirt or something like that, and you need the hem to stay stable, you're going to probably use the part that's stable like this way for your skirt. And then the bottom and around your waist can have a little give to it. That might actually make it look pretty nice, right? So kind of think about that when you're cutting your pattern. It is really important that you think about where the give is. And for example, if I was doing a jacket like this, and the front of the jacket, I would want the front of the jacket to stay very stable. I wouldn't want it to be able to keep stretching because it might end up being, you know, 6 inches longer like that. The best part about that though, is if the front of the jacket is stable like this means that my sleeve and this part of the jacket's got lots of give to it, which is where we want the give, right? We don't want it to sit nice and tight. We want that extra give like that. So when you're cutting patterns out with this type of fabric, that's an important thing. This looks like a very difficult fabric to sew, and it is not. It is super, super easy to sew with. And I usually will use a stretch needle whenever I'm doing something like that. And it comes all kinds of different colors. You can see here, I've sewn the seam. And then when you look at it, I press the seam open. It did a beautiful job. There's no puckering, no pulling. It did a really gorgeous job. And even I didn't have a stretch needle in this. It still did a really nice job. Okay. Then we get into some more complicated things like sequins. This is a stretch knit and it's got sequins to it. Or this one is a stretch. This is swimsuit material. All right. Wouldn't that make a beautiful bathing suit? It stretches this way and it stretches this way a lot. And so if you were putting a bathing suit together, something like that, that might tell you something. But this also has the added difficulty is when you run your hand kind of sticks to it. This is like that shiny leather. And so if you're sewing on the right side of this, you would have to use a non-stick foot to make sure that it could sew properly like this. This has spandex. Usually you'll find in mostly underwear and swimsuits. You're going to find that the added ingredient into the fabric is that spandex. And the lycra you'll find more in the cotton t-shirt fabrics and stuff like that. It's just a little bit of a different way that they use them, okay? So I'm going to show you sewing with some sequins. And this is the best example. Now, this is physical sequins that are on the front of it. And you might be really thinking, oh, I don't think I can sew with this. This is not hard to sew with. But there are a couple of techniques that really make all the difference, okay? Now, here is an example. I sewed a sleeve. And you can see the seam, it's invisible. You really can't tell where that seam is. I don't know if you can or not. Let's look at it and see. You see the seam right there? All right. The sequins, I sewed right through the sequins. Now, if you're using very big, heavy sequins, then you can unstitch them from the seam allowance and not have to deal with it. But when you've got all these little tiny sequins in there, you don't want to do that, right? So I would suggest if you're tempted to sew with something like this and you're not sure about whether your machine can handle it, first of all, you can always come into Michael's and buy a new machine, right? If you need it. But this sequin fabric, I wasn't really quite sure how it was going to handle it. So I just took a piece and did an example. Now, what I did that was a little bit different is because if you were going to sew and make a jacket out of something like this, you don't want to have the sequins on the inside of the jacket. It would be really scratchy and irritable to wear something like that. And so you go to all the trouble of making it and it's not going to be comfortable to make it. So if I'm going to do something like that, what I'll do is when I go to sew the seam, right, here's my fabric. Let's pretend that I want to sew a seam right here like this, right? I'm going to put a piece of stay tape, and this is fusible, and you don't have to fuse it on to begin with. I'll put it on these two edges here, all right? And so when you're sewing the seam, you have your stay tape, and I like to put it on top because it kind of smooths out all the sequins, and I let it overlap past the seam. And I think you can see that, but just in case, see how the seam is, the fabric is there, and I have the stay tape that goes beyond it. Once I've sewn my seam, and remember, I'm going to have the stay tape on the top. Once I've sewn my seam, because this is fusible, I can go in and I can trim away any extra seam allowance that I want to, but then I'm going to, and I'll show you on this one what I did. There's the seam, and then I took the stay tape. It covers completely all of the seam allowance. So now the sequins don't come through, and it doesn't give you any irritableness from the itchiness of the sequins. It's not sharp or anything. So really, really easy to work with. The other time that I work with the stay tape is when I'm working on like a t-shirt or something like that, right? Remember, we've got all that stretch in there. Well, there's some places where we want stretch. Remember, we want our stretch here, but we don't want our sleeve or our shoulder seams to be stretching out. They need to stay exactly where they are. So that's another time when I would use this stay tape, sewing it right into the seam, because then afterwards it's stable and then it won't stretch out as your t-shirt is being washed again and again and again. Okay, so I'm
Karen,
going to
that's
head over to my machine. Yes, did you have
Karen,
a
that's a
question?
wonderful tip because I sew a lot of knit dresses and the weight of the skirt can pull at the waist or
Absolutely.
at the shoulders and stretch out your garment so that like the neckline is hanging too low or things like that. So reinforcing those seams with knits, especially if it's a heavier knit and it's weighing down the garment, can really make a difference in how it fits your body. So I love using seam tape and I highly recommend everyone get some. There's so many uses for it.
Yeah, and usually you can get it in black and white, so it kind of blends in with whatever you're sewing. So we're just going to talk about some other different feet, okay? There is a foot like this that if you're using decorative stitches, the bottom of it is, it's got an A on it right up here at the top. The bottom of it's kind of got a groove underneath. So if you are using heavier stitches, there's a reason why all of these feet come with your machine. And most feet will come with a foot like that. It's meant for decorative stitches. There is also an open toe foot, and I had it, where did I put it? That'll have an opening in the middle. But what I like about this one is the clear plastic in the front. When you have fabric underneath it, you can kind of see what's happening. And so that clear plastic allows you to see through instead of having that metal bar in front. But right now, I'm going to just put on our regular utility foot that came with our machine. All right, and that's your standard foot. And I'm always going to put my thread underneath my foot to the back. And let's see if I sew. I'm just going to put these two pieces of knits together. I hope I don't run out of time. I've got so many cool things. Does this go just an hour? Absolutely. And then we're done?
We were told that we could go 10 minutes over.
Okay,
That's
just in
it.
case.
She's
It's
giving you some extra time because you're giving us all the good tips.
okay. So I'm going to start sewing. You can see I'm just using a straight stitch. I haven't done anything fancy here. I'm going to go backwards. I'm not getting any resistance. And remember, I have a 90 titanium needle in here, but it could just as easily be a universal needle. There's not a lot of spandex in here. This is mostly 100% cotton. So what I'm looking for when I start stitching, I'm not worrying about a perfect 5/8 inch seam allowance because that's not what this class is about. All right. What I'm looking for is a nice even stitch, and notice how it didn't pucker or pull, right? It just gave me that nice flat seam. When I finished my seam, I ended up that the seam allowance is actually 2 inches longer than when it was when I sewed. Well, there's what I would likely do is I would lighten my presser foot pressure. So up here on my Singer 6700C, this button up here there's a purpose for it. And if you find that there's too much pressure and it's stretching out your stretch fabric, you have the option of lightening that presser foot pressure up, okay? And you can change it. and it's very easy to put it back to where it is. Very rarely I would want to go more, but often you might want to do less. All right. So, but that did a really nice seam. It seems like it's really good. This would be fine, but it's not strong, right? If this is a t-shirt and you're putting it on and off your head and you accidentally stretch it too much, you're going to break a seam. See right there, I broke that seam. And so if you're needing strength when you're sewing your t-shirt together, we have a special stitch for that. That is what this stitch right here, I call it a lightning stitch. It kind of looks like a little lightning bolt. It's stitch number 4. And this stitch is going to allow a lot more strength to what you're doing. All right. The titanium question was, is a titanium needle like a non-stick needle? And that's kind of exactly what it does. It kind of helps things glide through. If you're working with any types of spray adhesives, or you're working with sequins and things where the needle tends to want to get stuck into it, the titanium needle really stops that from happening. So it's a really great choice when you're working with some of the sequins and everything. I'm going to start sewing right now. All right, I'm going to do that same seam with the lightning stitch, and you're going to see it actually stitches a little bit different. And I'll come over just beside the seam that I did. See where when I stretched it like that, that stitch just broke, right? Whoops, sorry about that. Right here, it just broke that stitch. Now there are some things to consider when you're sewing with clothes and sewing with knits. One of them is you want to choose your thread carefully, right? You want a thread that is going to be a polyester thread. Do not use a cotton thread when you're sewing with leathers and vinyls and stretch knits and just anything where you need strength. And it's going to be for clothing or going to be something that's going to be washed a lot. You really want to use a polyester thread. I put a yellow thread in right now, just hopefully so you can see it a little bit on some of the different fabrics. But right now, remember that I'm using that lightning stitch. So watch, it's going to be quite a bit different. Let me just pull you in a little bit here more so you can see, okay? So the needle is going down to the right, and then it's coming back, and it's kind of building in stretch. You know what? I just realized there's no point in doing it on this side because this is already stitched, right? And you can see there's not a lot of stretch in that stitch. I'm going to do it on the other side, so then you'll really be able to see how the stitch develops. Okay, so it's going forwards. The needle's actually moving to the right, down, and then back. And I guess I should stop and line up my fabric and pretend like I'm doing something important. All righty. All right. So when you look at that stitch, it's hard to tell that it's anything. It kind of just looks a little less straight, right? But look at the amount of stretch you have. Isn't that incredible? It built in stretch into that stitch, but when you open it up, it still looks like a straight stitch. You cannot tell that that's not a straight stitch, but what it did, it built in the stretch. So if you've ever been sewing with knits, or you're making sweatpants for, your kids or grandkids or something like that, don't bother using a straight stitch, because the very first time they put their leg in it, they're going to bust the thread and they're going to come back to you and you're going to need to repair it. So that lightning stitch you'll find on all Singer machines, and a lot of machines have that stitch, and it's there for a reason. It's meant for when you're sewing with knits. Now, the nice thing about this knit is it doesn't ravel. All right. The edges, the seams, you don't see any threads hanging off of it. It doesn't ravel. If I didn't finish the edges of this, it would still hold together really nice. But because I use that lightning stitch, it's going to give me the strength that I need. Look at the amount of stretch. The threads are not breaking. And just to prove it to you, I better show you so you can see. All right. So when you see that, it just is giving you the stretch you need without changing the shape of the fabric. The fabric still look at that. It's still exactly the same as it was, but it's building the stretch in there. Okay. So remember the 4 steps to success. The right stitch is really important for what you're doing. The right needle makes all the difference. The right foot And if you need stabilizer, the right stabilizer can solve all your problems. Okay. So those are the things that you really want to think about when you're starting to plan your next project, whether you're making yourself a swimming suit, whatever it is you're doing, your machine can do a great job. It's all the difference is just in sometimes the foot or the needle that you're using. Okay. All right. I got some more exciting things to show you. I'm going to go back over to my needle, to my machine. All right. And let's say that I want to work with some minky. There's some minky. This minky is stretchy this way and not so stretchy the other. All right. This is no different. If I was going to make a quilt with this or use this on a backing for a quilt, I would just use a straight stitch, because the quilting that you would add afterwards would kind of control the fabric and this from stretching, and then it wouldn't break a stitch. This is on a straight stitch. All right, you can just see it's doing a great job. Now, when you are working, and I'll just sew down, I guess. You see how it kind of wants to move the fabric, right? So when I'm working with a fabric like minky, I'm going to come over here. Okay, did a great job. Now that fabric that had stretch, it doesn't have stretch anymore. All right, and it's got a nice seam to it. The thing is, because minky's got so much stretch, what usually happens when you're sewing on, see, this is not so much the stretch, this is the stretchy side, right? So it did a great job like this, but if I was to sew on this fabric and go this way, as I'm sewing, the top layer is going to stretch one amount, and the bottom layer is going to stretch a lot more, and they're not going to line up. When you're done, the one that's on the bottom will end up being like an inch longer. And the reason for that is the feed dogs are feeding the fabric fast. And maybe I'll come over to my machine and show you. Okay, let's take the foot off here. The feed dogs are pushing the bottom fabric through much quicker, and the top fabric, there's nothing that's helping to feed pull the feed through. So that's where a dual feed foot or a walking foot comes in. And the reason they call it that is because as part of the foot, they do have teeth that are on the top. And so as you're stitching, the bottom fabric will be controlled by these feed dogs, and the top fabric now has its own set of feed dogs. And so it evenly feeds both of the layers through at the same time. So that is just magnificent. Now, if you're going to put that on, okay, it's, you do have to take the ankle off. I'll just switch it out so you can kind of see. All right. So I've taken the ankle off, and then when the foot goes on, what's important to know is this needle bar, this is going to go, this bar here, let me just move this down here like this and get the camera a little bit better adjusted. This bar here is going to have to go on top of where the needle is. All right. So I need to lift the needle up to get the foot into place. And as I'm doing that, and I'm getting the foot anchored over here, I need to make sure, let me see if I can come down here like that. See how that bar is over there? And all walking feet work exactly the same way. There's going to be something that comes on top of this needle bar. And that's how the foot knows when to stitch, because the needle bar, as the needle goes down, the foot, this part will go down. And then when the needle comes up, magically the foot lifts up and it takes the pressure off the fabric. And then the needle goes down. You'll notice the bar comes down and the foot comes down. So it's a magical foot that works really, really well. Let me get the screw back in and see if I can show you how this works. And pretty much every machine, I don't think there's a machine out there that doesn't. I'm not used to this screw. Let me get it started here. Apparently I need a longer screw. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to make it look difficult. All right, let me put it back in place. And I got to get that all in here. The needle's there like that. And I just got to start the screw. I need shorter nails or maybe no nails. Let me see here. Once I get it started, it'll be good. Oh, I know what I can do. I don't even need it. The way this foot is made, I can put this on, get the screw started without having to take it out completely. Well, isn't that brilliant? All right, let me just show you the way this
Erin,
works.
I struggle with these tiny screws too because I also have long nails. So you're not the only one.
Yeah,
It's
boy, oh boy.
little screws are small.
Yes, they are. Ah, there we go. Oh, thank goodness. All right, here we are. So the way this foot works, it actually will let you leave the screw on. So isn't that good to know? I didn't know that you could leave the screw on. Well, that was a brilliant discovery. I'm so happy that I'm doing this and you can help me learn that. There we go. All right. And so I'm always going to tighten it up. All right. And you see that it's on up here, right? Wait a second here. Don't have it on all the way. So I got to put it on and let me just do this. Boy, oh boy, I'm making you work for waiting for this. Thank you so much for your patience. There we go. Now it's on properly. And when I'm going to show you what I did so you'll know what to look for when you're putting this on. Okay. And that's why I wanted you to show you. Now, if you wanted to, you can leave the walking foot on for most of your sewing. And probably you're going to be happy with it all the time. So you could leave it on for most of what you're doing. And let me just tighten this screw up. There we go. And you know how I knew that the foot wasn't on right? Because the opening where the needle is was not where the center of the foot was, right? You'll know this foot is on right because the needle is going to come down the center there. And when I lift the needle up, you can see that. So if when you go to put this foot on, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see. When you go to put the foot on, make sure that that metal place where it's coming around the ankle comes over the front and that you get the screw in there and the needle should be centered right where that foot is. If the foot looks like it's on crooked, I guarantee you two things. When you were trying to put it on, this needle bar might have been all the way up at the top and so it didn't kind of set itself well. So just by moving the needle bar down, it usually will make it much easier to put on, okay? All righty. So now zoom back out and I'm going to try and sew. So you'll notice there's a very big difference between this. All right, when I start, I'm going to remember that extra lift, right? When I've got all these extra, look at how big that extra lift is. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, so I'm putting my foot down. And now when I start sewing, I'm still on my straight stitch. You see how every time the needle bar goes down, the foot is flat against the fabric. And when the needle bar goes up, and let me see if I can just, now the pressure is off the fabric. And so it's not stretching out the fabric, it's just letting it sew. If you notice at the other end, there's a difference in the length, right? The top one is about 3/4 of an inch shorter. And I want you to watch that. As I'm sewing, there's no extra fabric being built up. The top fabric is not staying shorter and the long one is stretching out. They're both feeding at exactly the same length. So that makes a huge difference when you're working with fabrics like that. Okay, now I've got fur and fur, right? So what we were working with was the minky. The minky's not too bad because I got all the dust from the fur on my hand. The fur that you're using, it has a nap to it. And so when you're working with things like this, a walking foot makes all the difference in the world because not only is it taking the pressure off, every time it's taking a stitch, then the foot will come up. And so then it's not pushing and pulling the thicker, bulkier fabric. Most of these knits are stretchy. Look at this. Isn't that crazy? Like you would not even think that would fit underneath your foot, right? But it will fit under your foot. It's just a matter of that you need the walking foot. Don't try something like this without your walking foot. It makes all the difference in the world to this project. I will show you and prove to you that you can use this. Now, if this is going to be a toy, say you're making a cat toy out of this. I know somebody that's on here that makes cat toys. You don't use a straight stitch because a straight stitch, the moment that this fabric stretches, it's going to break the thread. And whoever you're giving it, whether you're making a stuffed animal for somebody, you really need to think about this. Who is going to get it? Is it going to be something that's stuck on the wall, or is this going to be used and washed all the time? So if you're using something like this and you need strength, you're either going to use that reinforced stitch or you're going to use that lightning stitch. Okay, and I'm going to come back to my machine for a moment and let's just review that. All right, so when I'm looking at the stitches, this is my straight stitch. The next one is still a straight stitch. It's the left needle position. Do you know why it's in the left needle position? I want to show you what happens when you're sewing with the needle in the left needle position. All right, I'm going to put some of the sequin stuff underneath my foot. And this is a perfect example of why you would want to use that left needle position. So if I'm going to be sewing, I'll use the red one. Yeah. If I'm sewing this and I want to sew a seam, maybe I'm going to sew the pink to the red. Let's see how good a job this does, okay? Now, as I'm sewing, if my needle is in the center position, I don't have a lot of fabric underneath my foot. I just have the fabric from the center to the edge of my foot. But if I select stitch number 2, it moves the needle over to the left. And now I have a lot more fabric underneath the foot. So the foot is going to support the fabric better. You're going to get less stress and less distortion on your seams. And so I'm going to use the needle in the left position like that, just so you can see what a difference it makes, right? Now, remember, this is sequin fabric. You can see, look what a great job it's doing. It's not stretching the sequins. It's not having trouble going through them. And that's because I do have that titanium needle in there. It's just piercing that sequins that are on there without any problems at all. All right, let me finish sewing the seam and I'll show you what it looks like. All right. So there's the seam. It did a beautiful job. And when I open it up, absolutely gorgeous. And look at that sequence. Not hard to sew at all, was it? The walking foot made a big difference because the foot's not dragging on the sequins, and the titanium needle just pierces those sequins like no problem at all. Okay. And I'm going to come over now with my fur, and I'll back it up a little bit because the fur takes up a little bit of space. And even when you're sewing with that fur, that needle in that far position really can help you. All right, I'm going to sew it on like this. This is where all, oh my goodness, look at the stretch. It's crazy. All right, so I'm going to turn this under like this because I didn't cut a small piece off from it. All right, and you notice when I do that, the fur kind of compacts underneath there. And I've got a couple of tips more with that, but let's just get it underneath. You can see it's kind of struggling to go under. So that's where I'm lifting up that extra lift. And I'm going to come underneath like this, put my foot down, and having that extra fabric under my foot will really make a big difference. It's going to allow that fabric to go. And maybe I should let that seam, I'll put like I'm pretending like I'm sewing a seam. I'll give you some more so you got a true picture here, okay? You'll see it doesn't want to go. So I lift that extra lift up, and now I come down, and I'm going to start sewing. All right. Now, right now I'm on a straight stitch, but remember, do you see how the fabric, it kind of wants to slide out from under, right? Because I have the needle in the left position, it's going to stay there a little bit easier. Now I am going to go and change. I'll do a little bit with a straight stitch. Look at how nice it's sewing that heavy, heavy fur. Isn't that beautiful? Now this time I'm going to switch to the reinforced stitch or the lightning stitch. I think I'm going to do the lightning stitch, and I'm going to test it to see what it looks like. So it takes a little longer because it's adding stretch in there. And this is what I usually do when I'm making something. I'll just have a little bit of scraps of fabric, and I'm going to test the different stitches. Now I'm going to stitch to the reinforced one, stitch number 3. So it's going back and forth, back and forth. I'm not stretching my fabric. You notice I'm not pulling back there. I'm just making sure it's still feeding, but I'm not pulling it at all. I'm just letting it go. All right, I think that's plenty for now. And I'm going to come over and let's see what it looks like when we're done, okay? So the first stitch, the straight stitch, it is nice. It did a nice stitch on the front and the back, but if I pull it like this, it's going to break the thread. The lightning stitch is got, remember, the lightning stitch comes down to the side and back up, down to the side and back up. So it's building stretch. Look at the stretch in that. Isn't that amazing? Whereas here, I've only got about this much stretch. Here I can stretch it a lot. So if you're making a stuffed animal and you're stuffing it with batting and everything, then that lightning stitch is going to hold really strong and you're going to get a nice full stuffed animal. Whereas if you're using the straight stitch, you're not going to be able to push that much. And then let's see if we go down to that reinforced stitch again. It did a nice job both front and the back, and it has some nice stretch to it too, but not as much as that lightning stitch. So if you were making a jacket, let's say should I make a jacket with this? Wouldn't that be just gorgeous? So if I was making a jacket with this and I was sewing down the front, I would not want the stretch. So I would probably use a straight stitch so that it would kind of stop it from stretching out. But if I'm doing something like a sleeve or putting a sleeve in or something like that, then I would want there to be some stretch so that if I move my arms like this, it wouldn't break the stitch at all. Okay. So I encourage you guys to try some of these things because look, isn't that just phenomenal? And there's lots of patterns out there for making stuffed animals and blankets and all kinds of different things. Now, the last thing I want to tell you about the Minky and all of this, if you're using Minky for the back of a quilt and you're using a cotton fabric for the front of the quilt, whatever is more stretchy should be on the bottom. Okay. So in that case, if you're sewing the top and the bottom together, you're going to use a walking foot so that they'll feed equally. But the one that is more stretchy should always be on the bottom, never on the top, because on the top is always going to be more prone to stretching. And on the bottom, it almost does the opposite. It kind of almost like pulls it in and stops it from stretching too much. So that's a good hint if you can think about that. Okay. We've got a couple more things. Where's our time? We're over. We've got 7 more minutes. Okay. Don't tell anybody we're over time. I'm just going to go and grab a couple more things. All right. Because I wanted to just show you when you're working with synthetic fabrics, this is the most torturous fabric to work with. I don't know what it is, but this fabric is slippery. It's slinky. It's got some threads are shredding all over the place. And lots of different problems working with that. And I've got a couple of other things that I wanted to show you. And silk is like that too. When you're working with silk. All right, here I have an example of the silk. And you can see the threads, they just shred off of the edge there like that, right? So when you're sewing with these fabrics, if you're working on something like a quilt, and I actually do have a quilt I made this silk quilt. All right. And I used everything that's in here is silk. And I wanted to be able to sew with it and cut with it. But if you're cutting this up into small pieces, it literally just falls apart. It shreds like that. Okay. And that's where this fusible stabilizers can go in the back. You can use like a spray starch or best press and that kind of stuff. It'll stiffen up the fabric, but it won't stop it from fraying. Okay. Now on this back here, I have a very soft fusible, it's like a tricot stabilizer. You honestly, you can't tell. This is a little more see-through and this one is not so see-through, but you really can't tell it's there. The weight of this fabric is so thin that the stabilizer that you don't even know it's there. And so now when I cut it up, it's not going to shred. Okay. And I see a question about what thread do I sew with silk? I use the polyester thread. I don't have any problem with it at all. I find it's a little better than using the cotton because the cotton is a little bit rougher and it tends to kind of want to, I don't know, the polyester is smoother, so it does a better job. Okay. And the needle that I'm using when I'm sewing with silk is I like to use a size 75/11 or an 80/12 needle. And I will use a sharp needle. When I say sharp, I mean an embroidery needle's got a sharp point. A denim needle's got a sharp point. Something that's got, and a microtex needle is absolutely gorgeous. If you've never seen a microtex needle, that's what they recommend when you're sewing with batiks, because when you're sewing with batik and you're using a universal needle, that bottom is kind of like blunt. And it doesn't want to go through these very, very fine fabrics. Like a batik has maybe 200 threads per inch. And so the needle doesn't want to go through, but you change to a Microsoft needle and it just sews so perfectly easily. So, that's why we need a variety of different kinds of needles, right? If you're sewing with batik, you're going to hear as you're stitching, if you've got a universal needle in, it's kind of going to go thump, 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 thump. Well, that's the needle. And it's just having a hard time going through the fabric. So you put a microtex needle in that's got a really sharp point and it will stay perfectly in line. Same thing with denim. If you're sewing with denim and you're noticing that your stitches don't look so straight and you're using a universal needle, it's because the needle is going in one side of that heavy, thick denim threads, and then it'll go on the other side. So if you want a much straighter looking denim stitch when you're sewing with denim, use a denim needle and you will get a much straighter looking sewing stitch. Now, I see a question about what size needle for the Microtex. I use the smallest one I can get away with so that I can use the needle threader. So I don't have great eyes. I need the needle threader. They don't recommend using a needle threader for anything less than a 7511. So I personally never go through a 7511. But if you're working on a real, delicate gown, or you're doing something that's really important to you and you want the nicest look possible when you're working with silks, then and this Microtex type of thing, the synthetic stuff, I always go with the smallest needle that I can get. You can get size 60 Microtex needles, but you can't use your needle threader with them. So if you need to get the needle threader to do the work, then make sure you're using a 7511 and not anything less than that, okay? So silk's beautiful, but this is just gorgeous. Now look at this I used this is an example. I used a different type of fusible stabilizer on the back. Again, it's a very, very light one, but look at that. This, I'm telling you, is about 4 years old. It's a block that I never use. I use it all the time in demonstrations. The threads are just perfect. They don't shred, they don't do anything. And so that's how I started using a lot of my silks in my quilts and stuff, because I just stabilize the back of them and then they just become like a regular cotton, and it's not hard to sew them at all. And you can see this is the back, this is the front, and you can see how beautiful it is. When I cut this, the threads are not going to shred. It's just going to be beautiful. Okay. And then the last thing we got to talk about is velvet. If you're working with a velvet, oh my gosh, the naps, I love working with velvet. This is a cotton velvet, right? It's got a nap that goes one way. So when you're sewing with these and you're cutting out patterns, make sure the nap is going the way you want to. Maybe you're making Christmas stockings, or you're making yourself a jacket or something like that. You really, when you're making it, you want to make sure the nap is going like this, because you're going to put your hand on that. You don't want it to feel rough. So make sure the nap goes down. And these are both velvets. Now this one is a silk rayon velvet. This is a lot more complicated to sew on than the cotton velvets. The cotton velveteens, they can go in the wash. They wash beautifully. The silk rayon velvets do not wash well, and they're much more slippery. So if you're going to work with any of these type of things, and the minky, this is a type of velvet that is like a t-shirt velvet. It's got stretch every way you can think of, right? It's almost like the minky, but it's got a velvet finish to it. Same thing, it's got a nap. This is the rough way, and this would be the smooth way. Always be using your walking foot, and make sure that you've got the needle that's going to work best for you. And I think my time's up, so I better get out of here. Now, same thing, Kathy asked what size best stitch to use for working with this. If it's a stretch knit, if you don't want it to stretch, say this is the front of your jacket, you're going to use a straight stitch because you don't want it to move, you don't want it to stretch. But otherwise, that reinforced stitch will work really well, and so will the lightning stitch. And I really just encourage all of you to go out and get, tiny little pieces of fabric like that and start playing with them. It's going to make you braver. You're going to get a lot more out of your machine. And I got to say goodbye. But before I go, I want you to know that Vanessa is coming on next week. And I think it's the same time. And she's going to be talking about using twin needles. And she's got all kinds of different ways of working with twin needles and decorative stitches. So make sure to join her. And I hope you all had fun. And thank you for joining me today. And I hope to see you again another time. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.